Hey, Blue Collar Millionaires. It's Chris and Kevin. We have got a fabulously named gentleman, Chris Cates. I've known Chris from other masterminds. We're in a few different masterminds together. So that should tell you everything about Chris. He is extremely motivated to grow, to increase his knowledge base, to increase his relationships. And I have watched his journey just a little over a year, and he's had some massive success. But it's not because he's lucky. It's because he's put the work in and he surrounded himself around the right people. So, Chris, man, honored to have you on. Me and Kevin are excited to hear your journey.
Yes.
Tell us kind of where you started and to the point to where you're at right now, and we'll just interject some questions along the way.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me. Love everything you guys are putting together as well, and what everybody gets to benefit from through this Facebook group. But so I started out. So I went to the traditional journey, college, and 4-year degree, and spent 3 years doing diplomatic security. Realized that wasn't for me. Went to commercial construction, general contracting, did that for 8 years in various capacities. The company I worked for did about $3 billion a year in construction.
Wow.
I managed about $1 billion throughout my 8 years. And, during that time, I realized that my lid was not getting lifted very well in terms of both salary and potential. And so, I just saw the potential of real estate through various different avenues that kept coming my way, and kind of saw the writing on the wall. So I started wholesaling, collaborating with other people locally, single family real estate properties. And during that first year, I exceeded my gross income from my W-2 was exceeded by my net income from wholesaling after all my expenses and everything. And I was doing it on the side, right? It's not even something I was putting, heart and soul into. Towards the end, I kind of was. And so at that point, I just said, it just doesn't make sense anymore. So I've been wholesaling for about 3 years, and that's kind of a label that I don't really take on too much anymore as well. We do look to buy first, and I've been doing a lot of Airbnbs, done about 6 in the past 10 months as well, and just looking to diversify as much as possible and keep creating those streams of income, keep growing my company. I really think I don't want to grow my company past about $1.5 million a year. I really want to keep it kind of at that point and start being able to focus on other things like buying businesses and stuff like that. So, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Chris, what did your day look like when you were working a full-time job and then doing that? Were you actually on the side past your W-2 income? And then I know you have a family and children, you're working out. Tell us what that day looks like. People always telling me they don't have time. I know too many people who did it.
Yeah. It was gradual, but it turned into chaos really quickly. And it was probably one of the most stressful times of my life, but it was also one of the most rewarding times of my life, having done that, because it changed the trajectory of my whole future, right? So, I mean, it was working during the day, evenings, taking phone calls and calling prospects because they work too, right? So that was the best time to talk to them. And honestly, during the day, my lunch hour, I would also be firing away texts to prospects, and I'd be like also at other times too, and I'd be like scurrying out of the office to talk to sellers, and nobody heard my conversation. But it's funny, my whole family felt it as well. Like it was chaos. It was one of the most stressful times for my family. But like looking back today, like my wife and I can already agree that we wouldn't trade it for anything because of what it was able to create for us. So it's pretty.
How long of a period of chaos was there? Because here's what a lot of people don't realize is that resistance is so heavy when you first start. But as you grow, it does get easier. The more success you pick up, the easier you find yourself later down the road because the tasks change and you're able to kind of dictate how your lifestyle is. So that chaos portion, about how long of a period was that?
Probably about a year and a half.
Yeah.
And you know, it was a big let up when I quit my W-2, but you know, it's still kind of an ebb and flow because you own a business, right? You know, someone quits and you got to start, you know, putting all hands on deck for different positions and stuff, but it's not what it once was. That year and a half was definitely the most stressful first year and a half. So
I heard an interview between Gary Vee and another guy, I forget that guy's name. And the question was, when is enough enough? And he was like, it just gets easier. Why would I quit? Like at this level, it just gets easier. And I think we can't forget how much momentum gets built up because it doesn't start out easy. I mean, it's pure hell. There's a lot of obstacles to get through, like you just explained, a year and a half. And I think most people quit before they ever start to feel the traction kick in. And that's why they feel like they stay in a constant perpetual situation of chaos and overworked and overstressed. But if they would just stay plugged in. Now, do you think having mentors around you, was it influences that really helped you grow and get past that portion of your life in a year and a half, or was it more trial and error?
It was both, but it was 100% the influences that allowed me to scale and look past my own, what I thought my version of a problem, whatever that was. Because my version of problem's only a problem if you don't know the answer. And so, you know, if you're seeking the right people, they're able to give that to you or point in the right directions. And that was the critical part for me, is just the right associations and really climbing to those people as quickly as possible, because you still have to do the trial and error within your own organization, because nobody can give you a one size fits all for what your organization is and how you're set up. But you know, it cuts the knowledge portion completely out. You just have it there, right? So
yeah. So tell me, did you have a team in that year and a half? And if not, when did you start adding? Kind of give us that progression of how you built resources around you.
Yeah, I was doing it myself for for about 4 months. I was just me, text marketing, using the platform I still use today, and
what is that platform?
Launch Control. And after 4 months, I knew, you know, I wanted to. The job was kind of a blessing because I wanted to take myself out of the equation from the start so that I could still give time and attention to the job while growing a business. So I knew I had to put someone else in that position to text for me. And so I started with a service that had VAs, that provided a VA that did it for me. And then I also formed a partnership with my partner and my partner today that's in the DC area, as well as where I'm at in Charleston. And we had 2 VAs going in both those markets, doing the marketing for us, right? So we replaced ourselves out of marketing as quickly as possible. And then, you know, since I had specific expertise with texting and all the things that I didn't like, I guess about a year after that, I said, you know, I just want to build my own team and do it that way. And I want to train them my way. so that I know they're doing it, as best as possible. So then I built my own team. We had 4 texters, a team lead, and an admin VA. Personally, we now have 3 texters and 1 team lead, and we found that that's a good equilibrium for us. And they also cold call as well, and that's kind of where our team's at. We had a virtual acquisitions guy as well, and we actually just let him go, and we're in the process of kind of building out an acquisitions team of about 4 people is what we're about to start looking to do, because we're overwhelmed with leads at the moment.
Are you going to use VAs for that as well?
We're not. So I've been torn about this, but we used a virtual assistant, acquisitions level virtual assistant before, and there are just dynamics that didn't work for us. But like, we want an aspect where we're able to be elbow to elbow for at least 2 hours a day with them, and be able to kind of be doing other things while listening to them, and be able to give them feedback on, even during convos. If we need to go close a deal, we'll make it happen, right? So we're kind of going that direction. The in-office, not really in office, but we can have meeting locations and stuff. So
let me ask you this, because I think this is where a lot of people get stuck on that whole building the team. How did you build your team? Can you get a little granular on like what your first thoughts were, what you had to do prepare before you hired that first person? Like you even mentioned, you said I decided to bring it in-house because I wanted to teach them my way. So how did you go about finding the person and being able to teach them your way?
I used a recruitment company in the Philippines, and I created a training platform on Monday.com before I even hired anybody. Kind of a detailed, robust training platform on our company's core values, and what we stand for, what our expectations for them are, and then all the software and how they use that. And then it was a collaborative process, and it is continuously a collaborative process. But we didn't even recruit ourselves at first. We used another company for that too. So
did you hire successfully the first time?
So let me see. 2 out of the 3 original people we hired, we have let go. Yeah. And so sometimes people run their course as well. But one of the people that we originally hired are still with us today, and they work great. So
so you built out a training program. You already knew what your key performance indicators were, what you expected from them, and then you had a company that did the recruiting for you at the beginning, and plugged them into your system.
Yeah, and in addition to the recruiting, we even gave that recruiter a link to. We used a team building company called Team Architects, and they give you a customized 45-minute assessment link that shows job fit and gives you all the positives and negatives. So we had everybody fill that out before they even started as well. So if they didn't have a job fit, we didn't even talk to them, which helped that process. So
how are you transitioning over? You said you don't. I do want to ask this question. What's making you stop at the 1.5 million mark on your wholesaling business? You said you wanted to pursue other ventures, but why not still grow the current wholesaling business?
Yeah, I think every person has to ask what they want individually and what's best for them. I think between me and my partner, we both realize we don't want to grow past that 1.5 million mark. You really have to start creating a bigger office environment for success and growth there. And that's not, from an acquisition standpoint and disposition, you really have to start building out a lot more for different positions. I'd rather have something that functions well at that mid-level standpoint, and I'm able to have my focus in other places, specifically because I know, for example, a wholesaling business isn't sellable, right? And so I want something that's providing income and transactional value, that's just working well, while I can have my attention in places that, businesses that could bring value and increase in value, right?
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Chris, did that is with what your father built, and did he exit? Is that part of the reason that you saw that you can build something up and have a big exit?
yeah, no, yeah, he grew it. I'd say my dad started with his own company around 23 years old, and he was there he built it till he was, I guess, late 40s, and then sold it, right? So, and he sold it for about 10 million. And
it was a sprinkler company?
Yeah, it was a sprinkler company. He actually sold it to a group of investors from Harvard Business. Yeah, so that's an example of, like, to me, that gives me motivation, and it tells me, like, kind of what's in my DNA and what I can do and what makes the most sense at the end of the day too. I don't want to build something that can't be, assigned a value when I'm done building it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Seems pointless to do that. So
I love that. So tell me, how are you using your current skill sets from the wholesaling side? How will you use those to find you a business that you can purchase, grow, increase enterprise value, take cash flow from, all that good stuff from business?
Yeah, well, it's funny. Real estate industry is filled with marketers, and so you have to be better than everyone else to get deals, and offer that value add, and have the good follow up and all that. And what I understand is, from the business buying standpoint, there's a lot of markets where it's not the same thing. Everybody trying to buy a house, they're not getting hit up 10, 15 times a day, right? And so we already have those kind of systems and that mindset to be able to convert prospects to leads and leads to deals. And so we know how to do that from a very competitive industry. So I think it'll be very easy to translate that over to different industries, as far as connecting with owners and getting on the same page. And the advantage is they don't feel like they're being bombarded the entire time. I look forward to a process where you're able to more personally connect with them and create kind of a win-win, instead of it being, so competitive between 10 to 15 people that are all talking to the same person. So
Absolutely, man. The competition's down. There's something I noticed when I've done startups, and when I got on to the understanding that acquisitions was a much better way to go for business. I'd already had a real estate background, and when I took my first seminar to just get around some other people that were doing business acquisitions over and over again throughout the year, I realized a ton of the strategy. Matter of fact, all of the real estate strategies that are used are the exact same strategies that get used in business acquisitions. So let me ask this question. When you're trying to find a house to purchase, where are you looking? Because probably exactly where you're looking, there's going to be a similar concept of how people can look for businesses as well. So when you're hunting for houses to buy, what are some of the resources that you're looking at to find out where those are located?
Yeah, so we look at we use data suppliers. Like we've used actually Mark Evans Data Company, and we've used other data suppliers as well. And so we develop basically our criteria for what we know is successful. We weed out, we cut out what we know wouldn't be successful right from the get-go, so we know we're not talking to them. Right, we don't want a house that was built in 2020 with no equity and it's brand new. There's no play there, right? So
you
we
built
cut
a
out.
buy box.
Yeah, we develop our buy box. And we're a little broader with that from a prospect perspective, and then we're able to narrow it down once we get to, we plug things in. Once we get the data and skip trace, get their phone numbers, and plug them into our systems, start the outreach, as far as automated and manual follow-ups, and see if we can make it a match at the end of the day. A lot of times it's, not, for various reasons. Our conversion rate is right now about 38 leads to a deal. So, you got to think about that. A lot of people, like we've had our acquisitions rep, like, man, it's really tough. A lot of people aren't willing to sell or aren't in a good position. And you got to think, well, 37 people aren't going to be, but that one out of 38 is going to be. So you have to be okay with those 37 to get to that 38. That's what you have to go through to get that conversion, right? So, and that's kind of what, kind of our process of how we get through things. So
if I wanted an HVAC company, I would go to a data provider. What's Mark's thing called? Data.com? Is that it?
Shoot, I'm actually mind blanking on it right now.
Me too.
Anyway, so there's a, and pretty much it's just pulling a list. So if I said I want an HVAC company in the Southeast, in these states, or in this particular town, then it would be able to pull that list. And then at that point, I'm going to skip trace it, which just means I'm finding emails and phone numbers. So what's a skip tracing platform that can be used after they get a list?
Same thing, Mark Evans, the one we can't remember. or you can use batch leads. Really, you need there might be one that's business specific, but for real estate, you need the owner first and last name and the property address. So it might be different. You might be able to do it differently if you plug in a business name, and it might be able to spit out something based off of that as well. Mm-hmm. And that would be different than the data source I use. Mine's pretty real estate specific, but I know they exist, right?
Right. So now that you've got the skip trace, you got some names, some phone numbers, some emails, then that's when you're plugging into your outbound, reaching out with text message, ringless voicemail, physically calling. So this is, I mean, it's really, you don't even have to go to that extent though for businesses right now, because it's like you said earlier, you're competing against another 15, 20 marketers that are wholesalers that are out there for the same prize you're trying to win. Yeah. Nobody else is out there. I mean, Kevin had just said the other day, he's got a very successful business where he's servicing in several different states, and you've had 2 maybe people that's reached out to you, Kevin. So I mean that right there should sell realization. There is not competition out there. You might be the only person that's ever reached out to this person, and when you say, "Hey, are you interested in selling your business? I might be interested in buying."
And I did a call with them on Friday. They made me an offer on Saturday. Oh, yeah. But it was pretty good, but I'm not going to take it because I like what I'm doing. But that I'll tell you how they did. They sent me a nice email. They knew who I was. And then when I was talking to him, he had he did a little research on me. You know, it was so simple.
Yep.
And that's what they do. I mean, it's just not that hard. So, Chris, a quick question, because you've done tons of houses. With businesses, you only need one if you want. You find a $10 million company you can buy for $7 million or something. You don't need to do anything. Now you got to operate it. So what's your plan on that? Are you just looking for, are you going to try to figure out which type of companies you want, zero in on them and try to find one, or are you going to wholesale? How are you thinking of doing it?
I would find what company I want and zero in on it, but I think it's going to be a creative process that might change a little as I get into it as well. But I definitely want it to be stabilized, $1 million net minimum, and have some major players in place. So I'm not buying a
Job.
what feels like a W-2.
Yeah,
So, and just trying to keep something afloat. I just want to be able to pull levers, you know what I mean? So I've built once I've built one, I don't want to build another one. That's enough for me.
That's how we all feel.
Yeah.
I think you're thinking right though. I mean, when you're at the million net, you can pull levers. When you're at the million gross, you have a couple of tiny levers that you can pull. That may,
Yeah.
I mean, you're definitely involved.
And people can understand why that is, but the reason is you have so much cash flow that you can take care of problems. Like Chris, we all think of how many problems we had when we started. They were mostly about money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Once you have money, it's like most of these problems go away.
Yep. Because you can create positions and fill vacuums a lot easier.
You can try stuff. There's so many things you can do. You could try stuff and spend a few $1,000s on an idea, and it might produce 50,000. It might not work. It doesn't even matter because there's so much money coming in. But you have 7 or 8 of those ideas. It's just so many different ways. Otherwise, it's like and it's way less stressful when you look in your bank and there's like cash coming in all the time. It's super stressful in the beginning. Otherwise,
it allows freedom of thought, right? So you don't feel like you're just going from the day to day and getting to the next deal, the next customer, like all that.
It's a buyer's market. It always is in businesses because there's more people who don't have exit plans than people trying to buy them. And that's because we were just saying, if I was getting 15 texts a week, like I used to in real estate, I mean, I would have never talked to that guy.
Yeah.
You know?
Then you're just another spammer at that point.
You could take your time with them too. Like we say in our war room, try to get to 100 no's, like 100 people telling you, no, I don't want, like you won't get there. You'll get some interest. There'll be interest for sure.
Yeah. And just to expound on that too, like even in we have major barriers we have to break down when we're texting people just because of the spam rate that people get. Like we are giving them as personalized messages as possible. We're sending them our business card over text message so they can see our face and our information, just so that we can try to establish a personal connection that other people don't have. Right. And so we have to close that gap and create kind of that connection there that you probably have right off the bat, and you don't really have to worry about that really as much. So it's definitely a different beast with real estate.
The other thing is, if you're qualified to buy, I think it gives you a huge advantage. So when people are texting real estate, I think people do assume they can buy my property. They might not want to pay what I want, but they're not texting me because they don't have some money behind it. Right. Whereas I don't know, sometimes Chris, you ever seen these like Facebook groups about buying businesses and people just put up like a shit offer? It's like, I see in 2 seconds, I'm like, oh, this is the worst business. And people are like putting their email, like send me I DM'd you. Like they don't even know what they're doing. There's no chance they're closing on that business. So you get burnout. The buyers get burnout. The business I bought, the roofing business, the guy was burnt out. He had it under contract twice. Guys didn't come up with money. different stuff. So when we went in there, it was like we had to play that role. These guys get burnt out. I have a friend's father who had a landscaping business, same thing. He tried to sell this thing for like 3 years and people couldn't come up with money, couldn't get financing. He just unloaded it for like literally like 15 cents on the dollar at the end.
Wow. Yeah.
I was looking into it, but it was down in Tallahassee, Florida. It wasn't going to work for me, but.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that, because I know you have the tools right now and your toolkit, obviously, for businesses, like just right off the bat, a few numbers, you know, whether to look deeper or say, no, thank you. And I'm the same way with real estate, right? Like deals, like you just look at a couple numbers and you know whether to walk or whether to look further, right? It's definitely, you know, value like that. That's like almost an intuitiveness that's gained across, you know, years of doing it too. That's very, very valuable to longevity, kind of like what you were saying.
I think that's an important note to mention right there. I mean, you got to know your market. Whatever you're looking to purchase, these are assets, just like houses are assets. These businesses are assets, and if you don't know what they're worth, how they're valued, what makes something more valuable than the other, then you shouldn't be trying to go and purchase something, because one bad deal could also sink you as well.
Yeah.
And the fact, it does take a little bit of time to understand and study the market. So you should constantly be on resources like birdbuysell.com just to see what are these things listed for, what's the lingo, you know, what is an average multiple based off of their EBITDA and free cash flow. All of these little things are just a place to study it. It wouldn't be a bad idea to spend 6 months just looking into it so that you make a very educated decision and save yourself a lot of heartache and time in negotiation processes.
Yeah.
I remember my dad, when he was doing real estate, I asked him, how do you know what this house is worth? He said, son, I just started looking at real estate and seeing what it was selling for. Yep. And then I learned what I needed to be paying for it. And I knew that I wanted to pay a percentage of a discount. So if it's worth this, then I just put my discount percentage on there. And now I know what I can offer.
Yep. Fundamentals.
The other thing is, go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say, I think that the funny part is that's what it boils down to. The more you do it, and I'm speaking from real estate, not from business buying, but you could probably relate. The more you do it, the more it boils down to a couple fundamentals, and it becomes a lot more relaxing at that point, because you have confidence based off of a couple values and a couple levers of whether something will work or not. And it becomes a lot less stressful. You can think a lot clearer. You can be a lot more confident in your actions and just be more successful at that point, you know?
And then you got to know what, for me, it's like, especially in the blue collar area, you can just look at a business and see it, like where it's going to be in 1, 2, 3 years, if I can resell that, if it has residual income. And I think a lot of people aren't. That's why Chris and I and Mark in the war room, we kill deals all the time. Chris, we look at like Matt Murphy's deal. I hated the roofing deal he was looking at with this. I hated that deal.
Right.
And I love the deal he's getting now. But that's why
it's a sexy deal.
And
you can tell it's sexy because after he's done his site visit, he's still giddy about it. I mean, he's very excited still about the situation. So.
It usually goes the other way.
Yeah, I saw his second post and I was like, man, that's awesome. He's still looking forward to it.
He's going to kill it. But he was looking at a roofing business. Roofing can be tough because it's transactional. It's one time. It kind of has a feel for wholesale, kind of like you're trying to get leads. It depends on, like the one I got. We looked at it's commercial, and then we looked back for 5 years on all the clients to see what percentage of them do they get used every year? Do they charge them? Whereas if you're doing homeowners, if you looked at a roofing company, that you would see that it was like less than 5% actually ever probably call you back. If you put a new roof on somebody, why would you call them? You don't need them.
Right. They're good to go.
And then, but he had, and it was 65% new build. And we know that that's changing right now. So without question, that revenue is going to go down. So these are just all these things you have to look into.
I think it's important when you're looking at these businesses. Some of these businesses might be gateway businesses into other services. So, like, let's say that you're doing your roofing and you're not doing the service work. You're only doing new roofs. We've mentioned this several times. Well, what else is next to that roof that can get you in with that customer again? So maybe you do have a seamless gutter company and then a gutter cleaning company.
Yep.
I know for me, a lot of times, like if we get a fire damage job, that a lot of times will have water involved. So now we've got a water restoration portion where we're setting equipment and it's making us money on a 24-hour basis. But the gateway into that was that fire damage, to where water damage is a gateway for mold remediation if they've had a long-term leak. And so when you're looking at these businesses, even if you do have something that's going to be a one and done, what else can you tag on as an additional service to make sure that you get a higher lifetime value from that customer?
Yeah, 100%. And you brought up before, like, what avenue would I go for buying businesses? And I said it was more of like a creative process that might change. I think that's kind of the road that it would take, right? Is kind of through real estate and what my experience is on the rehab process and all that. What kind of makes the most sense that's kind of in my lane and I already kind of get through my years experience, so that I'm not entering something that's completely foreign to me. But yeah, that's a good point that you brought up there. Just always bolting on, right?
I think you've got a cool background to start with, Chris, because you've got the project management on the commercial side. Because when you're looking at service-based businesses, for the most part, most of them are geared around real estate, and you're either going to go residential or commercial or both. And you've got the real estate purchasing, wholesaling side, residential, then you also have that background as a project manager on commercial. So that really does set you up for a lot of success to have that experience behind you.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I look forward to being able to jump into it just from a bird's eye view and just get those levers pulled.
Yeah, it matters for W-2 guys going into that they have some type of background or some strong skill sets that they can leverage. I think people don't realize how much what they learn in a W-2 in a corporate setting, how much that can help them.
Absolutely.
And then there's other people who don't have any of it, and then they kind of don't go in blind. I have so many friends who've talked to me about, I want to start my own business. And of course, almost none of them ever do. But I always tell them, you have to get momentum like you did, Chris. You got to get momentum on your lunch hour at night. And it's almost like you build confidence in yourself. Like, hey, I can do this. And then when you pull that trigger, you'll know when it's ready. But I hate the idea of like, I'm just going to leave my job and just go in. Nah.
So much pressure.
Yeah. That's a good point. Just translating your W-2 over, because I don't give that enough value in my day-to-day and realize how much that actually correlates to what I'm doing. Like, for example, my partner and I are doing rehabs and stuff. There's a lot of pieces of that that's just intuitive to me because I came from commercial construction. And so I ask him, like, just certain questions about, core construction. And, you could tell he's scratched his head. I'm like, wait, you don't know about that? And so I don't realize that, like, so there's people that don't come, it's hard to quantify that. And then I have another partner in Airbnbs, and I'm putting together a huge project schedule, making sure everything's on point and everything's executed properly. And his eyes are like, what the crap just happened here? What are we doing? This is amazing. And I'm like, well, this is normal. How else are you going to finish on time, So it's just, you bring up a good point. It's funny. Like, there's so much value you can bring that you don't realize you have with a W-2. So
I like how Mark says it. He says, sidestep one step. Don't go over here and jump on a trampoline and jump way out of a lane that you're already used to. Just sidestep if you need to sidestep, and build off of those assets that you already have, and it's experience assets I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's where you're going to find your most success. Bruce Lee, what is it? Bruce Lee says, I don't fear the man that knows 1,000 kicks, but the man that practiced one kick 1,000 times. And that's kind of where it's coming from. If you've been doing this and you're successful in your W-2 at this job, just build on top of that, and you're going to beat the learning curve down tremendously and have quicker success.
The people I know that have been successful going from W-2 to their own business always did it the way Chris has done it. You're just yet another person. I don't even know a person that hasn't done it. I know a couple that didn't do well doing that. That's how you have to do it. And the same thing with the buying a business. So you have all these different skill sets. When you go in to buy a business, you're going to apply them. If I was an Amazon truck driver or something, and I would feel like I don't really have the skill set to do that, I would start, if I was going to buy a roofing company or something like that, I'd get into sales. I need something to go in there with where I'm like, all right, I know I'm good at this part. Now I can help build a team around here. Or I was really good at managing projects for roofer, whatever it is. I'm using roofing as a thing. But I wouldn't want to just go in there from, I'm working at Kroger's and I'm just going to do this. That's a bad idea.
Go pay your dues.
Go pay your dues.
Get an idea of what
Do 2 years.
Like. Yeah.
2 years will go by like that. First of all, you'll make more money probably than whatever you were doing anyway. And sales or pay your dues on it, and it will go.
That's
quick.
a really good point. And it really comes down to like the sales and marketing are really those two things that if you know how to do either one of those things, you can be successful in any business if you know how to do them, right? So,
Yeah.
And then obviously there's the operations perspective, but yeah.
Also, from an investor standpoint, I invest in people. They would need to be doing those things for me to invest in them.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let you try to wing it. Not on my dollar.
Well, if you think about a seller, the seller is going to automatically have a lot more confidence if you say, yeah, I've been over at this roofing company selling ABC Roofing, and I've decided that I wanted to own my own business, my own roofing company, compared to, well, I've been over here driving for UPS, making good money, and I decided I want to get a roofing company. Unless you're handing him a big sack and he just doesn't care about what he's built over the last 10 plus years, which is going to be extremely rare, he's not going to sell that company.
He's not seller financing.
You can run it successfully. There will be zero seller finance, right?
The only way he's seller financing it is if he's the 70% you gave him, he was happy with that. And the 30 is just bonus. He's not doing that otherwise.
Yeah.
I know I wouldn't.
As opposed to you going in with a resume of look at these companies I've built and put together, and you can catch some of the upside. That's different, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Somebody who has never marketed or done sales, they're in for a rude awakening and a very big learning experience. It's not necessarily a bad one, but it's one that everyone else has to be a part of that's involved in that business. And sometimes it's not, it's not fun if you don't understand it or have someone who understands it that can do that,
And I don't want somebody listeners think we're discouraging someone from doing it. We're just trying to make it easier for you because all of us have done things sometimes the hard way. I know I have. I know Chris has.
Well,
there's easier ways to do this.
This is what it just boils down to. Take one idea and execute on it. Don't take the 100 of ideas of how you can market, how you can operate. Just get one. Like, for instance, I didn't build my business because I was doing direct response marketing and all of this other stuff. I hired an agency that knew how to build a website based off keywords and got me up organically on the search. Okay. That's as far as I went digitally. And then social media, I executed on that. And I just constantly shared when I was out in the field what was happening. But more than that, I started building affiliate partners. That was the marketing technique that really started to grow my business in the disaster cleanup. And when I started, I was like, okay, this is working. So really all you need to do is just find that one avenue, and then you just go head deep into it and let it grow. Then you can start picking up other ideas along the way. So yeah, there's tons of opportunity, tons of way to skin the cat, as they would say. But if you'll pick one, You'll be way more successful.
Yeah, and the point that I want to bring up in corresponds to what you guys are saying too is you didn't know that what you were doing was going to work, whether it was going to work or not, right? You didn't have some guaranteed, this is going to net you or double your income if you do SEO and keywords, right?
No, the guarantee was me. I knew I wasn't going to quit.
Right, exactly. And so like part of it's trial and error too, and action, right? I mean, that's action is life's greatest separator. And so if you don't know what to do, just choose the avenue that you feel is best and go deep and do it thoroughly, right? And that's what you've done, and it's created great success with it, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a great point there, is most people just stall because they don't know where to go or what action to take. And they're kind of sitting there in analysis paralysis as a result.
Hey guys, I got to jump outside real quick. Chris, I'm going to let you.
All right, man.
Cool.
Right. Yeah. So I'm interested to watch your journey on the business acquisition side, because I think when you go over to that portion of your life, you're going to see that so many skill sets you've built on the real estate side are going to translate over. And that, I think that's the coolest part of the journey of life, is we get to see how we compound on top of our experiences. And it allows us to really be able to gain a lot of momentum. So I think that's probably the biggest takeaway out of this interview for the viewers, is for them to see that. Notice where you're at right now. Notice your skill sets. Notice those as assets, and then start to build off of those. If you want to purchase a business, then find the industry that's closely related to currently what you're in, because you've already got a skill set built there. If you've been doing it for a decade, man, I highly recommend don't jump ship. You may just need to be in a different position. Maybe you need to be the general manager of a business you own, or you need to be the visionary and then partner up with an operator for a business that you're trying to purchase in that same industry. A lot of times you can literally just pivot the position, the responsibilities in that particular industry that you're in, and you'll enjoy that industry now. You were just in the wrong position, doing the wrong type of task that didn't fit your personality, and that's why you hate that industry. It's not the industry itself. Because at the end of the day, we go into business to produce money so that we can purchase our time back and have a lifestyle that we want to live. So it's a tool. It's not. I believe you can like it, but I'm not a believer or component in the whole idea of never work a day if you love what you're doing. Because there's plenty of days I wake up and I'm like, you know what, I could just sit here and eat Cheerios and chill out and soak in YouTube educational videos. That would be an amazing day. But I have to get up and go to work and make it happen.
Exactly. It's awesome. I love it. It's a great point.
Well, dude, man, I appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing. There was a lot of really good stuff that was taken from this. And I guess I'll see you in Ohio at Mark's event.
Yeah, I think I'm going to that. So we should connect there.
Awesome, man. Appreciate you. Have a good one.
All right. You too, man. Thanks.